So Little Nightmares is a puzzle platformer that has been garnering an awful lot of positive hype in the run-up to its release, largely I think due to its distinctive look and to the fact it's by Tarsier Games, which is a developer that's worked really closely with Media Molecule on games such as Tearaway and the Vita version of Little Big Planet, for example. This is a game, however, that they've put together completely on their own. So basically you play as a young girl who... I thought she's actually wearing a yellow dress, but I did actually think for quite a long time that she was wearing one of those sort of
Pacamax.
Yeah, those old yellow cagoule type things. I think it's
like been to a theme park, wants to get a water ride, and thought, "Oh, I'll put this on."
Yeah, but she couldn't handle getting wet. Exactly, it's a really odd outfit. But anyway, this young girl wakes up in this dark nightmare-like world with only a cigarette lighter to her name. Presumably in the other pocket, she's got a packet of fags. You basically have to move from left to right. There's actually more platforming here than I expected because it is a puzzle platformer. I expected the puzzles to actually take the front seat, but the platforming actually almost has as much prominence as the puzzling. There is also the occasional bit of light stealth, and when I say light stealth, I mean very light stealth, and also the solving of some fairly simple environmental puzzles.
So how does it play then? I mean, being a puzzle platformer, and like you said, there's several platforming sections in there. How is the platforming? Is it up to standards?
Well, yeah, this is a real kicker, and I hate to get in there so early in the review, but I will. Despite appearances, I thought in the run-up to its release, and before I actually played it, I thought it was actually going to be a 2D platformer like Limbo and Inside. Both of which, by the way, are absolutely fantastic. But it isn't. You do actually move the girl around on a 3D plane, so you can move in and out of the screen. So you go through basically lots of these little rooms, and there's like boxes to climb. And I think the idea with this was to add in more pure platforming instead of just puzzling. But the unfortunate side effect of this is that it makes the jump challenges very awkward and, as a consequence, very frustrating. Now, I mentioned that Tarsier's got experience on Little Big Planet, for example, on the Vita. If you remember, Little Big Planet is good in every respect but for its platforming, which is obviously a bit of a problem considering it's a platformer. Yeah. And a lot of the problems Little Big Planet has is because you can walk in and out of the screen and because the physics are annoyingly imprecise. It's almost like they've taken those problems and completely transposed them into Little Nightmares.
Maybe they thought they weren't problems. Maybe they thought they were the key selling points.
Design features.
Yeah.
Yes. Unique selling point. Awkward. The checkpointing is actually quite poor in this as well, which is annoying because in puzzle-focused games, really the checkpointing should be just before the puzzle that you've just failed at. But no, what the checkpointing is like here is it seems to be punishment checkpointing. So even though you'll quite often die, it's the kind of game that will kill you for a laugh, just like, you died, now, but you know what to do this time and do it again. That's fine if you checkpoint just before that point, but no, it tends to make you have to run through one or two more screens, and it's just not a fast mover even when you're holding the sprint button, to be honest. And that actually makes it quite frustrating. I tested the PC version and the loading wasn't too bad, but I've heard that the console versions have quite long load times, and that actually would exacerbate the problem even more.
Yeah.
Even more.
That would really you'd get pissed off waiting for that to load.
It's very repetitive and indeed frustrating because of those frequent blameless deaths and the overly protracted checkpointing.
How do the graphics hold up? I mean, the art style definitely looks quite interesting and unique.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, the art style is amazing. It is, in fact, the game's biggest strength, without question. It's why the hype built up prior to release. It's because it has this really distinctive and almost Tim Burton-esque look to it, actually. It's almost like you're playing one of those creepy old stop-motion animations, and the art direction is really nicely done. Imagine, the aesthetic style of games like Outlast and Resident Evil 7. It's that kind of style, albeit in a very different genre of game. The character design is just as imaginative, actually. I mean, the young girl in her cabool, about to go on a fishing trawler, is very imaginative. And you've got these sort of really big, weird hulking. Everything's done to sort of look weird and surreal. You've got these weird hulking creatures sort of loping around, and it does actually make it quite tense in places, not just because of the annoying controls, but actually, the right kind of tenseness. The lighting's also very good, especially when you use the lighter. But overall, the art direction isn't quite as good as something as, say, Inside.
Yeah. What about the sound? Do the sound match the graphics?
They do, yeah. I mean, the sound design is also excellent. I kind of get the impression, actually, that Tarsier may have spent a rather too much time on the graphics and the sound and not so long on the actual gameplay mechanics. But the sound is excellent. It conjures this really oppressive atmosphere, albeit, I'm going to get tired of saying this, not quite as successfully as Inside.
So good, but not Inside good.
Indeed.
What about technical issues?
There were a few glitches in my playthrough. Some of them related to the physics engine. Physics can be, as I mentioned, quite imprecise and annoying. There seems to be this weird... I don't know whether this is a design choice, but sometimes you have to hold down the right trigger to grab onto things and climb up onto them, whereas sometimes she does it without that. I don't understand that at all. I don't know if that's a glitch or a feature. The on-screen,
Same thing.
Well, indeed. The on-screen interface also looks and controlled in an overly twitchy. That will be patched really quickly, I should think, though.
So if you just want to summarise the good points and then the bad points.
Well, uppers, fantastic atmosphere. The puzzles, they are quite simplistic, but they're otherwise engaging. Probably the fact that the puzzles are simplistic is why they added in that extra bit of platforming there. But the down points, well, I've already said the controls are absolutely awful. The checkpointing is really annoying, largely because of the frequent deaths. And the 3D overcomplicates the movement as a whole. The physics is also very unreliable and unpredictable, which isn't great in a puzzle platformer, to be honest.
It sounds like Little Big Planet, but there is added
puzzles.
And made it look a bit
Tim Burton-esque. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it actually feels a little bit like they've done that. I mean, it's a bit more 3D than Little Big Planet.
Maybe they used one of the level creators on Little Big Planet and then just edited it a little bit. What score does it deserve?
What does it deserve? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it 61%, and I believe it deserves that too. Which on our review scale is fair. If you power through the problems, and some people have a greater sense of patience than I do. If you do power through... Yeah, I know. Who'd have thought it? The game is really striking and memorable, and some people have said the puzzles are overly simplistic. I don't really mind. I'm kind of like I like playing games for the experience. I didn't think the puzzles were too bad, to be honest, but I do think £16 is a lot to ask for around 5 hours of gameplay. They said previously that there's 6 to 8 hours of gameplay. No, it's closer to 5. Particularly when there's so many other better examples of the genre out there already. You definitely want to, if you are interested, do wait for a pretty serious sale.
Is it as good as Inside?
No.